Imagine waking up to a world where your country's economy crumbles overnight because it failed to play the hidden game every superpower masters. This should terrify you, because right now in 2026, nations are silently stockpiling strategic assets like gold, oil, and rare earths, not out of paranoia, but following a ruthless 5-stage pattern that's toppled empires for centuries. We're already deep into stage 3, and if you think your nation is immune, think again. Let me show you the exact sequence. This isn't conspiracy. This isn't speculation. This is documented history repeating itself with mechanical precision. Every great power that has ever collapsed, Rome in the 3rd century, Spain after the Silver Flood, the British Empire at the turn of the 20th century, even the Soviet Union in its final decades, followed the exact same 5-stage sequence of quiet strategic accumulation, and then failed to finish it properly. They spotted the early warning signs. They began hoarding the assets that would matter when the world became dangerous. They moved silently. They hid the scale. And then, almost every single time, they either got exposed too early, overplayed their hand, or simply didn't accumulate enough before the inevitable crisis arrived. The pattern is brutal in its simplicity. The nations that master the 5 stages quietly become untouchable. The nations that ignore them, or stop halfway, become history lessons. And right now, in January 2026, with trade corridors closing, sanctions multiplying, and great power competition entering its most dangerous phase, we have already silently completed stages 1 and 2. We are firmly inside stage 3. And the acceleration is visible to anyone who knows what to look for. This pattern doesn't run on hope, ideology, or exceptionalism. It runs on math, on scarcity, on who controls the physical things the modern world cannot function without. Strategic assets aren't just insurance policies. They are the invisible weapons that decide which countries survive the next global reordering, and which ones wake up to empty shelves, worthless currency, and surrendered sovereignty. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes I'm going to walk you through each of the 5 stages, exactly how they played out in history, exactly how they're playing out right now, and exactly what it means for your country, your savings, and your future. Stage 1 always begins the same way. A whisper. Not a scream. Not headlines. Just faint, uncomfortable signals that the world is becoming less stable. In the late Roman Empire, around 180 to 200 AD, the first cracks appeared. Barbarian pressure on the frontiers was growing. Inflation was quietly eating the silver content out of the denarius. Trade routes started to stutter. A few smart provincial governors and wealthy merchants noticed. And they began quietly buying up grain reserves, lead, copper, and iron stockpiles, far more than normal seasonal needs would justify. The emperors? Most of them, Commodus especially, dismissed it as routine caution. They kept spending on bread, circuses, and legions as if the system was eternal. Result? When real supply shocks hit in the 230s and 240s, Rome had no buffer. The crisis of the 3rd century exploded. 50 emperors in 50 years, hyperinflation, mass famine in the cities, and the empire nearly shattered. Here's what nobody tells you. Stage 1 is never announced as preparation for collapse. It's always disguised as prudent, boring, routine policy. A new mining initiative. A push for domestic sourcing. A quiet increase in strategic grain purchases. Nothing to alarm markets. Nothing to tip off rivals. And we just completed this stage, quietly, methodically, between 2020 and 2022. Remember the pandemic supply chain panic? The sudden talk of resilience? The emergency funding for critical minerals, semiconductors, pharmaceuticals, and energy independence? Every major power, the United States, China, the EU, even smaller players like India and Turkey, quietly pivoted toward bringing strategic production closer to home or locking in long-term contracts. It wasn't random. It wasn't about COVID alone. It was the whisper. Global trade can break. Shipping lanes can be weaponized. Sanctions can cut you off overnight. Your country did it too. Your tax dollars funded it. and most people called it building back better, while the real players knew exactly what pattern they were following. Stage 1 is now behind us. But here's where it gets darker. Once the whisper is heard, the smart ones don't just prepare at home. They start buying the world's supply, silently through proxies, before anyone else wakes up. That's stage 2, the shadow acquisitions. And it's already well underway. Stay with me. Once the whisper of instability is heard, the smart ones don't stop at home. They go shopping. Quietly. Through shadows. Stage 2 is when empires, or what's left of them, start buying the world's supply of what matters most, before anyone else realizes there's going to be a shortage. Take Britain in the mid-19th century. The Industrial Revolution was roaring, but coal was the oxygen. Long before the Opium Wars escalated and before France or Russia fully woke up to the threat, British agents, private firms with quiet government backing, and colonial administrators began locking up coal fields, naval timber reserves, and guano deposits for nitrates across South America and the Pacific. They didn't announce it. They didn't bid publicly and drive prices sky high. They used proxies, long-term leases, exclusive contracts, shadow acquisitions. The result? When global tensions boiled over, Britain had the energy, the gunpowder ingredients, and the shipping fuel no one else could match. That invisible edge helped them dominate the century. Here's where it gets darker. These acquisitions are almost always funded by debt. Debt you and I, or our ancestors, end up paying for generations. The empire borrows today to hoard tomorrow, and the citizens never see the bill until it's too late. And this exact playbook is running at full speed right now, in 2026. China's Belt and Road Initiative? It's not just infrastructure. It's shadow acquisition on steroids, ports, mines, rare earth processing plants, lithium deposits across Africa, South America, and Central Asia. They're not buying on the open market where prices would explode. They're building relationships, offering loans that can't be repaid, then taking equity in the assets. The United States isn't sitting idle either. Quiet moves to secure lithium in Australia, cobalt in the Congo through allied firms, and massive long-term contracts for semiconductors from Taiwan and South Korea, all dressed up as friendshoring and supply chain security. Your tax dollars, your pension funds, your retirement accounts, they're indirectly financing this global treasure hunt. Most people still think it's just business as usual. It's not. It's stage 2 in real time. And we're deep inside it. But the real genius, and the real danger, comes when they take those acquisitions completely underground. When even their own citizens aren't allowed to know the full scale. That's stage 3, the Veil of Secrecy. And trust me, we're already living it. Stay right here. Now the game goes dark. Really dark. Stage 3 is when the accumulation vanishes from public view entirely. No more visible contracts. No more press releases about securing supply chains. Everything classified. Off balance sheet. Hidden behind layers of state-owned companies, sovereign funds, military budgets, and black box deals that even most politicians never see. The Soviet Union mastered, and then fatally botched, this stage in the 1970s and 80s. Facing growing food shortages and fearing U.S. grain embargoes after the 1973 oil crisis, Moscow launched massive covert grain purchases through intermediaries in Europe and Argentina. They used front companies, falsified shipping manifests, and funneled hard currency through Swiss banks. At the same time, they were secretly stockpiling strategic metals and building underground fuel reserves. To their own people? Nothing. The official line remained. Everything is under control. The West barely noticed the scale. But here's the chilling part nobody explains. The veil works both ways. It hides the hoard from enemies. And from your own population. Because if citizens knew how much was being spent, or how vulnerable the system really was, panic would erupt, markets would spike, and rivals would accelerate their own moves. The genius is in the misdirection. The danger is when the veil cracks too soon. And right now, in January 2026, We are living deep inside Stage 3. Look around. The United States has been quietly repatriating massive amounts of physical gold from foreign vaults in London and New York Fed storage, framed as routine audits and modernization. Russia has pivoted hard into a crypto-gold hybrid reserve system, transactions almost impossible to fully track in real time. China continues to build its strategic petroleum reserve at a pace the official numbers don't quite explain. Even smaller players, India, Turkey, Poland, are moving gold and rare earths in classified central bank swaps that never hit public ledgers. Your government is doing versions of this too. They call it national security. They classify the full numbers. They tell you it's for resilience. But the veil is down. The scale is hidden. And the stockpiling is accelerating. This is not paranoia. This is pattern. We're in Stage 3, right now, and it's getting thicker by the month. But the moment you weaponize those hidden assets, the moment you start using them to lock in permanent advantages, that's when the pattern turns lethal for everyone else. That's Stage 4, the leverage lockdown. And we're already knocking on its door. Don't move. Stage 3 hides the hoard. Stage 4 turns it into a weapon. This is the moment the accumulated assets stop being just insurance and start being used to lock in permanent advantages over everyone else. History shows it clearly with Spain in the 16th century. After flooding Europe with New World silver and gold, the Habsburgs didn't just sit on it. They weaponized the flow. They loaned massive amounts to allies at favorable terms. They manipulated bullion prices across the continent. They bought political loyalty from German princes and Italian bankers. They funded endless wars against France, the Ottomans, the Dutch. For a while it worked. Spain became the financial and military hegemon of Europe. But here's the chilling part. Over-reliance on that single asset created a trap. When the silver shipments slowed, when piracy and inflation eroded value, Spain had no diversification, no fallback. The leverage they built turned inward. By 1648, hyperinflation, bankruptcies, and military overstretch had locked Spain into irreversible decline. The real genius, and the real danger, is that Stage 4 turns your hoard into everyone else's vulnerability. You control the flow. You set the terms. You decide who gets access, and who starves. We're approaching this stage right now, in 2026, and the signs are impossible to ignore. Look at Europe since the Ukraine conflict escalated. The EU has quietly built the largest strategic gas and oil stockpiles in its history, not just for winter, but as leverage. They're using those reserves to negotiate with suppliers, to pressure non-compliant nations, to dictate energy terms across the continent. Your energy bills, the ones that keep climbing, are part of the lockdown. They're the price of being on the controlled side of the equation. The United States is doing the same with semiconductors and critical minerals. Export controls, friendshoring deals, and stockpiles that can be turned on or off like a tap. China is mirroring it with rare earths. They already control 90% of processing, and they've shown they're willing to restrict exports when it serves strategic goals. Your country, wherever you are, is either building this kind of leverage right now, or it's becoming the target of it. There is no neutral ground anymore. This is Stage 4 closing in. The trap is tightening around the unprepared. And we're not watching it from the sidelines, we're inside the mechanism. But the pattern doesn't end with leverage. It ends with revelation. When the crisis finally forces the hoard into the open, either as salvation, or as proof of fatal weakness. That's Stage 5, the inevitable unveiling. And when it arrives, empires don't just stumble. They shatter. Stay with me, this is where it all comes home. Everything built in the shadows finally meets the light. Stage 5 is the moment of truth. The crisis arrives: war, embargo, financial panic, cyber collapse, resource shock. And the hoard is either revealed as salvation, or exposed as a fatal shortfall. The Ottoman Empire learned this the hardest way. In the early 1900s, facing the decline of their land empire and the rise of naval powers, They quietly tried to secure Middle Eastern oil concessions through German partnerships and secret deals with Britain. They knew oil would be the new silver, the new coal. But they never accumulated enough. The deals were half-finished, the fields contested, the stockpiles inadequate. When World War I erupted in 1914, the Veil tore open. The Ottomans had no real buffer. No decisive leverage. Allies and enemies alike saw the weakness. By 1922, the empire that had lasted 600 years was carved up, dissolved, and erased from the map. The unveiling didn't just end the war, it ended the empire. Here's where empires truly die. Silence breaks. The Hoard decides fate. Either you have enough to weather the storm and dictate terms, or the world watches you bleed out in real time. And this stage is looming right now, closer than most dare admit, in 2026. Indo-Pacific tensions are the clearest signal. China continues to amass physical stockpiles of semiconductors, rare earths, and energy while quietly restricting exports of processed materials. India is racing to build its own semiconductor foundries and strategic reserves, framed as self-reliance. The United States is pushing massive domestic mining bills and export controls that look defensive, but function as preemptive unveiling insurance. If the next trigger hits, Taiwan flashpoint, Red Sea blockade, major cyber grid attack, or sudden commodity war, the hoards will be unveiled. Nations with deep, hidden buffers will emerge stronger, dictating terms, protecting their currencies, feeding their people. Nations that stopped at stage 2 or 3, or never started, will face empty warehouses, crashing currencies, and surrendered leverage. Your country is either preparing for this unveiling, or it's about to be the cautionary tale. This is stage 5, not tomorrow, not next decade, it's the next crisis away. And now that you've seen the full sequence, the acceleration becomes impossible to unsee. We're not watching history repeat. We're living inside the acceleration of the same merciless pattern. Let me show you just how fast it's moving, and why there is no easy way out. Now step back. Look at the full picture. This 5-stage pattern isn't crawling anymore. It's accelerating, faster than any previous cycle in history. Why? Because the tools have changed. AI-driven market surveillance spots opportunities in seconds. Instant digital finance moves billions without leaving a public trail. Satellite monitoring tracks every cargo ship, every mining truck. Quantum-secure communications let nations coordinate shadow deals in real time. What took empires years or decades to accumulate, Britain's coal empire, Rome's grain networks, can now be executed in months, sometimes weeks. The pattern is the same, but the speed is merciless. And here's the part that should make your stomach turn. This isn't accidental. This system, the quiet accumulation, the veils, the leverage, the inevitable unveiling, was deliberately architected and refined after World War II. The Bretton Woods institutions, the IMF, the World Bank, the central banking cartel, they didn't just create a monetary order. They built the perfect arena for this exact game. A world where scarce physical assets become the ultimate currency when fiat trust collapses. And where the nations that mastered the shadow moves earliest would always hold the winning hand. The elite powers who wrote those post-war rules, they knew the pattern. They embedded it. They benefit from every cycle. Right now, January 2026, we are barreling through stage 3, deep into the veil, with stage 4 leverage already tightening like a noose. Trade corridors are being weaponized. Export controls are multiplying. Sanctions are the new normal. Your taxes, your inflation, your shrinking purchasing power, they're all quietly funding the next round of hoarding, by the players who understand the sequence. There is no opting out. Your country is either playing, aggressively, secretly, ruthlessly, or it's becoming prey. You can't vote it away. You can't protest it away. You can't innovate your way out of basic physics. Scarcity wins. The inescapable system is locked in. The acceleration is visible. The only question left is timing. And when the unveiling comes, it won't ask for permission. Stay right here. Because now you've seen the full pattern. It's time to face exactly where we stand, and what it really means for you. The ultimate threat isn't abstract. It hits your life directly. If your nation hasn't mastered this quiet, ruthless accumulation, the next crisis, a cyber blackout that cripples grids, a resource war that chokes shipping lanes, a sudden commodity shock that sends prices vertical, will strip away sovereignty in weeks. Currencies will crash. Supply chains will freeze. Freedoms you take for granted, food on shelves, fuel in tanks, power in the outlets, will vanish overnight. The pattern doesn't care about democracy. It doesn't care about innovation. It doesn't care about your exceptionalism. It only cares about who controls the physical things the world runs on when trust in paper breaks. The math is merciless. Collapse isn't if, it's when. And right now, January 2026, we are deep in Stage 3, knocking on Stage 4, with Stage 5 already casting its shadow. The only real question left is timing. You've just seen the full sequence. You can't unsee it. And the pattern never stops moving. What if I told you this pattern isn't just history? It's the script we're all living right now, and most people still don't have their lines. You've just seen the full sequence. The quiet accumulation. The shadows. The leverage. The unveiling that decides everything. If this opened your eyes to the inescapable stage we're already in, deep in Stage 3, racing toward 4, then hit subscribe right now. Because when the next trigger hits and we cross into Stage 4, you'll want to know exactly what's coming, why it's happening, and what it really means for your future. The answers aren't waiting in tomorrow's headlines. They're already written in the past, clear as day. And I'll keep showing you exactly where to look. See you in the next one. Don't get caught unprepared.